All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. You know how much I love quantum physics.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating area.
It is. And today I thought it'd be interesting to dive into Perceiving the Quantum World, a new book by Dr. Lev Neymotin.
Ah, yes. I've heard good things about that one.
Yeah, he's got some pretty interesting ideas and some thought-provoking ways of looking at quantum mechanics.
I'm interested to hear more about this. What's his main argument?
Well, it's funny because a lot of times quantum mechanics is presented as this big mystery.
Right, exactly. All these weird and counterintuitive concepts that are hard to grasp.
And Dr. Neymotin, he really takes issue with that. He even calls it, he calls it the fog of mystery surrounding quantum mechanics.
I like that. It's like we're stumbling around in the dark.
Exactly. And he believes that a lot of this mystery is actually unnecessary. He thinks that we can understand quantum mechanics in a much more tangible and physical way.
Interesting. So it's not that the quantum world is inherently mysterious, but rather our approach to understanding it that needs to change.
That's exactly it. He's actually calling for, a modern-day Richard Feynman.
Oh, I see. Someone who can cut through all the complexity and explain these concepts in a way that anyone can understand.
Yeah, just like Feynman did with his famous lectures and diagrams, making difficult concepts accessible to a wider audience.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, to help illustrate his point, Dr. Neymotin uses a really interesting analogy. He compares the quantum world to a bicycle wheel.
Oh, I'm intrigued. How does that work?
Okay, so imagine a bicycle wheel spinning slowly. You can clearly see each individual spoke, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But as the wheel spins faster and faster, what happens?
The spokes start to blur together, right?
Exactly. Eventually they become invisible. Our eyes just can't process the information that quickly.
So he's saying that our instruments, our ways of measuring the quantum world, might be like our eyes trying to see those spokes spinning at super speed.
Precisely. It might not be that quantum events are actually random or uncertain, but rather that they're happening on a scale so small and fast that our current instruments are just too clunky to capture them accurately.
Wow, that's a really powerful analogy. It challenges our whole notion of what's real and what we can actually observe.
Right. It makes you think about the limits of our perception and how those limitations might be shaping our understanding of the universe.
So how does Dr. Neymotin propose we move beyond these limitations? If our current tools are too clunky, as you said, what's the alternative?
Well, he proposes a new way of visualizing these quantum phenomena. He calls them blurbs.
Blurbs. That's an interesting term. What exactly are blurbs?
Yeah, so think of these blurbs as fuzzy, constantly moving bundles of energy matter.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this. So they're not like solid particles with fixed positions.
Not at all. They're more like those toys kids have where you can squish and mold them into different shapes.
Oh, like Play-Doh or slime?
Yeah, exactly. They're constantly shifting and changing, always in motion. They don't have clear boundaries or a fixed shape.
So these blurbs are basically the fundamental building blocks of the quantum world.
That's how he sees it, yeah. And because they're so small and constantly moving, they're incredibly difficult to study with our current instruments.
I can imagine. It's like trying to measure a drop of water as it evaporates. You can't get a precise measurement because it's constantly changing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Our instruments are just too large and disruptive. Every time we try to measure a blurb, we inevitably bump it and change its position or state.
So we need a more delicate touch.
Exactly. Dr. Neymotin argues that we need instruments that are as small and agile as the blurbs themselves.
Instruments that can dance with the quantum particles without disturbing them.
That's a good way to think about it. And these instruments would need to be able to measure things not just in space, but also in time, since these blurbs are constantly changing.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we even begin to build instruments like that? It sounds incredibly challenging.
It definitely is. But Dr. Neymotin believes that it's not impossible. He sees it as a necessary next step in our exploration of the quantum world.
I wonder what kind of new physics we might uncover if we could build instruments like that. It's exciting to think about.
Now, he also talks about how this new understanding of the quantum world, these blurbs, could be really helpful for quantum computing.
Oh, right. I was wondering about that connection. How does he see it playing out?
Well, right now, our understanding of quantum mechanics is mostly based on abstract equations and probabilities.
Yeah, which can make it really hard to grasp intuitively.
Exactly. And that can be a big obstacle when it comes to building and controlling quantum computers.
Because quantum computing relies on those very same weird quantum effects like superposition and entanglement, right?
Exactly. But if we can start to visualize those effects in a more concrete way, like with these blurbs, it could give us a much better understanding of how to manipulate them.
I see. So it's like having a more intuitive model of how those quantum effects actually work could help us design better quantum algorithms and build more powerful quantum computers?
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And that could have huge implications for fields like medicine, materials science, and artificial intelligence.
The possibilities are really mind-blowing. It's like opening a door to a whole new world of technological advancements.
It really is. It makes you wonder, if we were able to fully grasp the quantum world, what amazing things we could achieve.
It's a humbling thought. Maybe our current limitations aren't about the inherent complexity of the universe, but about our own limited perspective.
Yeah, and maybe by changing our perspective, by embracing a new way of seeing the quantum world, we can unlock incredible new possibilities.
And maybe even solve some of the biggest challenges facing humanity.
Food for thought, right? Thanks for joining me for another deep dive. It's always fascinating to explore these big questions.
It really is. I can't wait to see what other mysteries we unravel in the future.
Until next time.
See you then.